So we're going to make a moonship. And actually, before we make a moonship, I think what I'm mostly going to do is I'm going to load up Lander 1, which is the mission, which is the vessel that we took to go to Minmus. Right? Pretty standard sort of a lander pod at the top. Nice wide base, makes it very easy to land even on the slope over here by being this broad like that. Should be plenty of delta V. Should be. As long as we don't need to use this stuff, this top bit, to either enter orbit around the moon, and ideally we'd like to deorbit as much as possible without using the fuel over there. Because I have no mods, this is completely vanilla, no mods whatsoever, I don't have the luxury of delta V calculations to know for sure that I've got enough over here. You can calculate it. I've got a spreadsheet technically set up where you can load in your engine, the weight of your stage, plus the engine thrust, plus the engine ISP, plus the total amount of fuel, and you can calculate the delta V out of that, but I think we'll just eyeball it. I think this was perfectly fine for getting us to Minmus and back and have a little bit of fuel left over. The moon takes a little bit more delta V though, because the moon has higher gravity. Therefore, if nothing else, getting off the moon back into orbit around the moon takes a lot more work. But actually, like, sort of landing in the first place also takes a fair bit more delta V to land it smoothly. So what I think I might do is let's just strap on some more tanks. You know, when in doubt, add more boosters, right? That is the Kerbal way. So what if I I'm going to grab this sort of stack assembly and throw it on there. And actually I'm going to make sure those fuel flows are going well, but there we go. Excellent! More fuel! Probably more struts too, because this looks like it's going to be a hella wobbly. There we are. So we've got all the engines are going to land on the first stage, indeed, and we need to make sure that this new stage that is stuck on the outside is the first thing to decouple. Oops. Oh, no, that's right. So they'll decouple, then... Oh, my staging is wrong. Things definitely got messed up. So it should be the outermost stage, followed by that bit, followed by... Oh, no, I misread it. Hold on. I misread what was happening. This has got to be over here. I didn't check my asparagus staging quite correctly. Okay, so outer stage, yes, and then I gone and messed these up. Outer stage, into that stage, into the final asparagusining over here, and then we detach here and there. So we should get to space with quite a bit of this left in here. And in fact, what I'm going to do, because I suspect some of these turn rates are going to be quite poor, I'm going to add an extra reaction wheel right in here. Oh, and then I got to strut everything up. We got to strut our stuff. Oh, we already have struts on there. They're just not attached anymore. Maybe more struts. No problem in Kerbal can't be solved by adding more boosters and more struts. No fuel pipes on one of the rockets. Let's see. This goes to there, which goes to there, which goes in, and then on this side, this goes to there, which goes to there, which goes in. Nope, we're good on fuel pipes. Gonna wobble. Yes, it's gonna wobble a lot. That's what the struts are for. Although, you know what probably would be quite nice is strutting that over there. All right, it looks ridiculous, which makes it, therefore, super awesome. You know what we don't need? Because we have so much gimbling on our engines, we don't need these little fins down here. We're not going to need that. It's beautiful. Shut up. I have no idea what's going to happen here. All right, who's going to fly this bad boy? We need a pilot. Valentina's already had the honor of landing on Minmus, so we're going to have Jorny, who's one of the people I rescued at some point, go and pilot it. He's going to try to land on the moon. We don't have any action groups, but we don't need any. Oh, here's something that I am missing. We need lights for 2 reasons. Well, 3 reasons. 1, lights are awesome. 2, I don't have any mods, which means I don't have anything to increase the ambient lighting. So when we're on the dark side of a planet, the video, it looks really dark. You know, it's always, you can see what's going on in person, but once you translate it to video, it gets cut bad. And 2, or 3, if we end up landing on the dark side of the moon, it can be quite hard to see exactly or judge exactly how high we are because we won't have a shadow. So I'm going to throw a couple of lights on here. I'm just going to give them a little bit of rotation. I don't think lights are physics enabled, so it should be able to This should be fine going up. So A, we'll get a little bit of self-lighting, so it'll be a little easier to see ourselves, and B, it'll shine a little bit on the ground, so we should be able to better judge how close we are to the ground. Okay. Is it fuel harvester in the vanilla game? I mean, the in-situ resource unit or whatever, ISRU? Yeah, that's in the base game. I don't think I've got any of that unlocked. So, we're going to do that. It is worth noting that our final return is just going to be the capsule itself. We're going to have to go and collect all the science out here. We can't reset the material bay or the goo bay, but we can still collect all the data because we're only coming home with the capsule over here, just to make the re-entry system a little bit simpler. We have a little bit of solar panel, we have a little bit of battery, not much. And you'll notice I wanted nose cones on these side bits, but I threw in these decouplers here because I want to get rid of them to free up some weight later on. It may be a little bit silly, it's maybe completely unrequired. You know what, how heavy are the nose cones? Oh, they're like 3/100ths of a ton. So you know what, we'll just do this. So we are going to land on the moon and come back with that, but it's going to mean a little bit less weight taken off. All right, let's see what happens. How bad could this possibly be? If we get really lucky, we will try to land on one of the Easter eggs. So SAS turns on, full throttle is there. Again, all the engines are going to go at the bottom, and that's going to go. And then the staging, I think, we'll do another pass here. That looks good. That's good. That's good. That into this, into those engines, into detach, into parachute, back home. I could do a thrust weight calculation, but almost certainly we've got a thrust weight above 1 by a fair bit here. All right, let's go. Wee-ha! Oh, I should have had more struts over here, actually. But it's not too bad. Oh yeah, and our speed is pretty high. I'm gonna throttle back to about 90%, so we're still climbing well. Don't want to accelerate too fast, because you can get into a lot of air pressure issues. And we're going to hit about 100 meters per second at about 1 kilometer above the ground, which looks like pretty good. I'm going to start my gravity turn maneuver, or rather I'm going to pitch over. I'm going to go to about 10 degrees. That's pretty good. And we'll just ask Jorny over here to lock to prograde. And we may have to babysit this a bit, because we might gravity turn. It would not surprise me if it ended up being a little too steep. Actually, we're not accelerating fast enough. Let's give us some more oomph. Oh! Time to stage already! Jeepers! I guess with all those engines, it makes sense that emptied so quick. Oh! It's shaking itself apart! I'm going to turn off this this inline stabilizer here. Just toggle, presumably. Because sometimes too many of those... Yeah, I'm missing some struts down here. We are pitching over maybe a little too much, so I'm going to go to SAS mode instead and just... Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Just try to slow down our gravity turn and also see if I can pull us back a little bit more towards the 90 degrees. This is very hard with how wobbly everything is. Okay, it looks like we are back on schedule here. My rule of thumb is I try to aim for about 45 degrees on the nav ball when we hit about 15 kilometers, so I'm just above that, and we got a stage again, which is quite nice. It's a little bit safer to be a bit steeper. We got our first tip of the day from Freaky Man, who sent in to space. Believe in the Kerbals. Thank you very much, Freaky Man. Yeah, I think I had. Oh yeah, you can actually see the struts over here, the strut bases. So in my moving things around, I broke the strutting over here, which should have been in place. So we are getting a lot more wobble than we would like, but that's the way it goes sometimes. So let's take a look. Our apoapsis is at 43,000, 44,000, 45,000, climbing quickly, very comfortable. No atmospheric drag effects going on here. We don't have to worry about heat or too much air drag. And yeah, we're missing our struts over here. So by moving my little boosters around, we definitely sort of mangled things a bit, but hopefully we'll be okay. To Mikyuk, thank you very much for the sub. Welcome to the party. And Adegard, thank you very much for the resub. We need a wobble emote, yeah. Also, I can't find my little green Kerbal hat. I mean, it's not actually a Kerbal hat. It's a, like an Android phone alien. But it looks Kerbal-ish, and it would have been great. I might put on my my captain's hat later on with the goggles. The goggles, they do nothing. I think I'm going to keep locked to prograde here. And we'll go to at least 100. Which... Damn, that's actually... You know what? There we go. I'm just going to cut out now. Let's give it a little kick so that we get away from those guys. And that's going to be fine. I'm going to turn on my my advanced inline stabilizer. By the way, if you haven't seen some of the cool new stuff here, you can go and pin open these windows like this now, which is great. Just leave them open. They do go away if you go into the map and then come back. But otherwise, we're good. Time Brisk, thank you very much for the resub. We are now in space. We've hit above 70,000 meters. So, we're still getting a bit of wobble, which is why some of those numbers are going. So I'm just going to time warp a bit, which will freeze all the physics and then fix it. And add a maneuver here to circularize. We're actually a pretty flat orbit, so we're not going to need that much delta V to circularize. There we go. As soon as the apoapsis and periapsis start to flip, that's a good sign. 574 delta V. We've got all of our fuel in this entire stage left over. So we're going to have way overkill on delta V, and that's good. If there's one thing you can say about Kerbal, never such thing as too much overkill. I guess what I'll do is I'll go and face the maneuver node. I could just stay locked to prograde, which should be fine. Time warp a little bit to freeze the rotation. Supernova and Wolfman, thank you very much for the resub. Supernova resubbing for 26 months. Thank you so much. Let me see over here. How's the chat? Oh, we almost have leaked amount of people in the chat. It's 1377 instead of 1337. So we're going to hit our node in 1 minute 20 seconds. Because our burn's estimated to be about 50 seconds, we'll start 25 seconds before there. It should be mostly accurate. Actually, it's going to be accurate-ish. Your satellite is right there. That's debris. That's debris. That, I think, is that a rescue? Oh my god, that's one of the Kerbals we have to rescue is right over there. Oh my god, could you imagine if I had launched with the command module here empty? We could have rescued Angie and brought her to the moon. But we don't know if she's going to be a pilot or anything like that, so we can't make... That's really funny. That's what this little pink marker is. 55 kilometers away and closing, which makes sense. She's in a lower orbit, so she's going to pass us. Ha ha! Oh, we are at our node time, so let's go ahead and start this burn. And try to aim towards the node a wee bit more. Yeah, it looks like our timers are pretty accurate. It's a little bit of a pain to steer because it is so long, like heavy and long like this. It's got to have a hard time to get in the inertial momentum, but we're getting there. It's a pretty long burn too. I guess we're pretty heavy at this point, and we're hauling a lot of fuel. And we are nearly done. 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. There we go. The camera changes when the periapsis goes above 30,000. 1 and go. Pretty accurate considering I didn't go and mess around with the numbers. Peri is at 101. Apo's at 107. That's pretty damn circular. We don't need it to be circular. It's just kind of sexy when it works out that way. So we are going to the moon. The easiest way to hit the moon, ballpark, is you put the moon at 12 o'clock, and you're going to be starting a burn right before 3. And right around here, what's going to happen is if you just face prograde, and you just wait to see the moon rise. And then you just go for burn. And you'll get to the moon. That will work. Let's do a little quick save here. Let's check the chat. Codexis, thank you very much for the sub. Welcome to the party. An adjective, I suppose, with the resub. 2 months. Thank you very much. And Agent Blue before that. Cheers. How's the Unify T5 engine with this game? It's fantastic. I'm willing to bet right now we'd be sitting at 120 FPS. Yeah, so you can see here, this is the maximum and minimum FPS, and I'm constantly hitting above 120. And in my settings, I have VSync turned off, but I do have it set to cap the frame rate at no higher than 120. So every time it hits 120, it then intentionally delays the game a little bit so it doesn't overheat my my GPU, which is why our average FPS is a little below 120, because it keeps hitting 120 and then intentionally puts in a little pause in the system. So it's bringing down the rate a little bit. But if I took that out, I don't even want to think what the frame rate would be. It would be higher than this, but I would start to hear the fan on my GPU start to spin up and different things. It doesn't need to be any faster than this. So performance is really good. This is a very simple ship, of course, not that many parts, but this is still a hell of a lot better than previous versions of KSP. So we can probably fast forward a little bit because we're not going to see the moon rise quite yet. I'm going to go ahead and say like warp to here. Just going to warp ahead about a minute. Okay, and what I can do is I can sort of turn the camera so I can sort of sneak peek the moon a little bit before we actually are going to want to start our burn. Take a look. Electrical charge is going to be fine. We've got SAS turned on, but it doesn't have to work very hard to keep prograde over here. And we do have solar panels, so we should overall be okay. No, we don't have an ETA on the 1.1 release. No idea whatsoever. It does sound like there will be a publicly available version of the experimental build at some point, but it's not yet the case. So whenever the publicly available version of the experimental build comes out, there's still going to be apparently about a couple of weeks of public testing this time, just because it's such a big architecture change. A lot of the UI looks similar, but moved a little from, oh, there's the moon, from previous versions of Kerbal. I'm going to start my burn now, because I think our thrust weight is not that good, so it's going to be a fairly long burn. And all I'm going to do is watch here, and I'm going to wait until our little blue line over here intersects the moon over here, and in fact, because we have patch conics, at some point it'll sort of split. It'll show us the purple line of encountering a sphere of influence change. So the UI has been moved and changed a little bit, but internally it runs on a very different UI system. Unity, starting from Unity version 4.5, they added in like various 2D libraries, and then that moved into a new user interface system, which I'm not going to go into the internals, but as a Unity programmer, the old UI system was A, a pain to work with, and B, very slow. Generated a lot of extra draw calls, which dramatically would drop your frames per second, which is one of the reasons you would lose a lot of FPS in this game from mods that would add just extra little windows and pop-ups over here. Things you wouldn't expect to slow down your performance, but it would because of the old system. And I'm going to just go and throttle down, and the new system, boom, there we go. So now we're guaranteed to encounter the moon, and what I can actually do is focus on the moon. I'm just going to keep burning prograde a little bit, and we can actually preview where we're going to end up, and a little bit more, 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 and a bit more. I could derate the engine. But there we go, 28 kilometers above the lunar surface. Ooh, we're going to be going a little crooked. Okay, that's okay, we can fix that, and actually I probably shouldn't have done as much prograde burning here, because I'm going to have to tune it again, but I use barely any delta V over here to make a change. I don't want to come in crooked like this. I want to come in a bit more equatorial on the moon, and in particular, I'm trying to remember, I think, it's hard because it's on the dark side. Trying to look at my moon map over here. It is right here, right at the southern edge of this giant crater is where we're going today. Right around here. So obviously we want to go relatively equatorial to be able to hit that marker. And we're going there for a very special reason. I don't know if we're going to be able to pull it off, but gosh darn it, we're going to try. So we are coming in too high on the moon. We're coming in too high. So what we're going to do is we're going to wait until we're around here. And then what we're going to do is burn anti-normal. And what it's going to do, it's going to take our orbit. I don't know if you guys can see. It should be aligned with the yellow line, but right now it's sort of a bit crossed. We're going to take the orbit and just sort of like start. We're going to be here, and we're just going to use that as the totter point. And we're just going to have it go quick like that, so that we hit the moon a little bit more equatorially. And then we'll probably have to tune our prograde, retrograde, maybe radial burn or something. We can go and put a marker right over here. And if I go, actually, we got to click on the moon, focus the view over here so we can see where we're going to end up. Then take this maneuver node, and I'm going to burn a little bit anti-normal. You can see we're going to bring it down. And yeah, so I'm too close now, clearly. So from here, I think what we're going to want to do is burn radially. No, anti-radially. And bring that back out again. And then a little bit down. There we go. That's pretty equatorial. We're going to come in too low. So we want to burn a little bit more that way. There we go. That's bringing us to 26. So it's only a 58 meter per second delta V change, a tiny little one, but it's going to get us to be properly equatorial. And you want to be looping around this way. Whenever you look down on a planet in Kerbal Space Program, assuming it rotates the normal way, where the sun would rise in the east, you always want to be going counterclockwise, looking straight down on the body, which is what's going to happen here. And by doing that, you're going to be orbiting the body in the same direction that it is spinning on itself, that it is rotating. Therefore, you're more closely matching its ground speed, which makes landing and taking off a lot easier. So there we go. That's going to be our maneuver. Delta V. Delta V is a change in speed. V being velocity, delta being the Greek letter that is used to indicate a change of. So you rate, like, here's the thing. If you had a big spaceship with a teeny tiny little engine, obviously that engine would not push you very hard. But if it was a very fuel efficient engine, you could eventually hit, well, I mean, not light speed or whatever, but let's pretend, right? It would accelerate you forever if it was super fuel efficient. This teeny tiny little engine might accelerate you forever. It would take forever to get to a really high speed, but it could do well. On the flip side, you can have this giant mega engine that, like, the second you hit go, it, like, peels you back into your seat. It's so strong, the acceleration, but it's so fuel inefficient that you burn through all your fuel in 2 seconds. So delta V represents the absolute change in velocity. That is a ratio of the efficiency of your engine via, like, compared to how much fuel you got in your tanks. And or that delta V represents a change in velocity, and the delta V sort of left in your spaceship is indicative of that sort of fuel efficiency. Because we have a fairly heavy ship going on here, we're not getting that much delta V out of the fuel that we've got left in these 2 tanks. Because it's really hard work to get that going. Once we go and detach over here, we have a lot less fuel left in this bit here, but 2 things will be a lot lighter, and this engine here is very fuel efficient. Not very powerful, not as powerful as this one, but very fuel efficient, and therefore we'll get a lot more total delta V out of our tank. But right now we've got to make a change in velocity of about 58 meters per second in a particular direction. I suppose what I will do is I will go ahead and turn to face in that direction. Delta V is acceleration, yeah. I mean, it's the change in velocity, and acceleration is a change in velocity over time. So there's a slight difference. You are going to accelerate over a certain amount of time to achieve a final delta V, a final change in velocity. But I don't think delta V, just saying delta V by itself is accurate as acceleration. Because acceleration is a change in velocity over time. I might be wrong, but acceleration would be delta V over delta T, right? Right? I think. Anyway. Sounds like math. Math is hard. You don't need math to make space rockets. All right, let's do a quick save before we time warp. And if I click over here, I should be able to say, yep, warp to next maneuver. Estimated burn is 17 seconds. I think that's a lie. I think it's going to be a much, much shorter burn than that. I think. But I know, again, we're a pretty heavy ship. Oh, you know what we need to do? We need to turn the lights on. Oh! Pretty lights. Excellent. Now, the lights do burn power, and currently we are eclipsed from the sun, so our solar panels aren't going to work, but lights don't take up that much power. And this engine here actually generates electricity for us, which is nice. Delta V can also be deceleration. Ah, but some physicists would argue there's no such thing as deceleration. There's just negative acceleration, which is like, come on! Everyone, when you say deceleration, it's quite clear. It's acceleration that is negative with respect to your current velocity, so that's just them being picky. All right, let's go for the burn. Yeah, it's only going to be a couple of seconds. That's what I expected, so we'll get a little closer to the node. Actually, what I'm going to do is... How come I can't derate this engine? Oh, something's not working right. Because as I was just going to bring down the performance of the engine a scooch here to make this maneuver easier. That's odd. Can I not do that on a swivel? I've been doing that. Might have to reload or something. I've definitely been still being able to derate the engines, but oh well. All right, let's take a look at what that did for us. If we focus on the moon, there's our current path. We're going to come in. It looks pretty darn equatorial. We're going to be passing over... Again, I think it was this spot. Yeah, this spot right over here. It looks like we're going to be more or less passing over that. And at a height of 25 kilometers, which is a really nice orbit for coming in on the moon to do a landing. So that's pretty good. No, I didn't run out of electricity. It did say 0 over here, but it wasn't actually 0. It said 0 electric charge in that component, but that I didn't actually run out. Yeah, this is odd. Oh. All right, and this is a super pre-release build, so things might be weird, or there might literally, sometimes I convince myself that there is a glitch, and it turns out I'm just doing something wrong. So I guess there's nothing to do right now but to wait until we get to the moon.